trying to think of how to start this show right now.
A little cheers.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers. All right, 1 minute in.
1 minute in. All right.
All right, so we're gonna do a Q&A episode for the most part.
We are doing a Q&A episode. It has started. It's begun.
We haven't queued any A's yet.
Or ate any cues.
Cues.
What actually will be happening.
Yeah.
But that Alex Schauer video was pretty funny, and I'm glad you made me just watch it.
Yeah. The real sound of parkour.
You say "mummy" a lot.
Mummy. Oh, ow. Yeah, it's good. I think the funny thing about that is it's for everyone else that would be a show reel. And he just like puts up like this like the ridiculous like soundtrack of him, joking with it. I mean, like the movement is so ridiculous.
I imagine that's part of the reason why he's so good too. Is his lightheartedness, his humor. His humor. Look forward to meeting him hopefully one day.
Yeah.
Should we get on to the questions?
Sure.
We're gonna start on Facebook. We're gonna start with the Facebook questions. All 2 of them. I'm skipping one of them. So 1. Facebook does this weird thing where if you put too much text on a photo, it has an algorithm that basically blocks it from showing up on news feeds. So I made a boo-boo there. I prefer to use Facebook than Instagram for this sort of thing, but got more questions on Instagram. So starting with Facebook, Eric Price asks, what do you think will be of high demand in the parkour business world?
So that's one of those questions where like, if we knew the answer, then we wouldn't be telling anyone because we would be pursuing that business-wise. Right? Yeah. I mean, I think all the things that are already sort of, being pursued right now, like clothing, shoes, I think all those things, all that market is going to grow. I was talking to Julian yesterday about like parkour brands, and he's saying how he hates like all the parkour stuff because he likes being unique and he likes like having clothes that are unique, and he doesn't want to show up to the gym and it's like we're all wearing the same shirt and it's like, oh, I wore this shirt. It happens to me all the time because I wear the same clothes all the time. But like shoes, for example, he wears like skate shoes to train in. And it's like, because there's so many skate shoes, he can just choose this one and know that no one else is going to be wearing their shoes, especially for parkour. Right? So I think, but as parkour grows and the brands grow and more brands get into the market, there's going to be such a diverse amount of, or a diverse collection of products that you can buy that average people are going to start buying them, as well as parkour athletes, and you can sort of mix and match, and you won't show up to a jam and be wearing all the same clothes.
Now I have to change.
One of us is going to have to change.
Okay, should we move on to Instagram?
Oh, you don't have an answer for that? I was hoping that
I liked your answer.
You liked my answer?
Your answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think we actually answered this question, but that's okay. Okay, so we're going with Instagram names. Brown Jammins. Can you go over your article about the description and naming of parkour? Read the article. What's to go over? I decided to make that into a post because of the Urban Free Flow article, which I really disagreed with, and kind of went with it. There's just basically some themes there, and then there's been a couple of responses online about kind of more better, concise definitions. So I'll be updating it eventually. But yeah, the basic things take away from there are I don't think free running should be a word anymore. I think parkour can just be everything under that, but we also need a clear definition for parkour, not this, not a long drawn out thing about the philosophies, which are important. I think there's plenty of people that still write on that and still follow the culture, and I agree to most extents. But we need a simple definition to be able to just communicate with regular people so they get an idea in their head of what parkour is.
Yeah, I mean, so many people, it's like, I find it so interesting too that like whenever people have an opportunity to like present parkour in front of a group of people who are non-practitioners, they still use the same standard like really convoluted definitions that are like, oh, you know, parkour is about overcoming obstacles in your path and developing yourself. And it's like all these like, and you know, again, those things are all important, but it's never really specific to what parkour looks like from an outside perspective, right? Like, so if you have an opportunity to be talking to a group or presenting parkour to a group of people that are non-practitioners, you should be able to present it in a way that is actually descriptive of what you would see somebody doing, right? And I think that's the challenge in coming up with a definition that's simplistic but descriptive, and not including any like spiritual, like philosophical ideas, because that's when it gets to the point where it's like, no, you're like, that's like, you know, save that for later. You know, like give me a simplistic definition of what parkour is and what it looks like. That's all you need. So like the challenge really is to keep it in like one sentence. What is parkour?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you're promoting your own method, with parkour or your own organization, I'll use Parkour Generations, for example. You know, the whole concept behind the name, at least to my understanding when they started, was the previous generation of parkour, you know, almost kind of playing homage to that. And the principles that they developed and continuing to make that a part of their parkour practice, which is awesome, cool. Like do that. But parkour is more popularly practiced, not necessarily to those same philosophies, although many people still follow those principles. It doesn't really give you a good idea of what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think we are in agreement.
Yeah.
But the cool thing was that there was some good discussion online about the article and about coming up with a good definition. Nobody really seemed to agree fully on anything, but I think there was actually, it doesn't matter because I think there was a lot of progress made in terms of like getting people thinking about how to approach it. Even if it's they're changing their own definition just a little bit because they recognize flaws in it. Yeah, I was really happy with that discussion. It was good.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Next one.
Next question. What is this? Oh, sorry, Parkour Peter. Parkour Peter
from Seattle.
He's a good boy, I think. What is the scariest thing you have done in parkour? How about rupturing my Achilles tendon for one?
All right, yeah. Yeah, I think
that was pretty scary.
That's a scary one. Scariest thing that I've done in parkour? He's probably hoping for a move.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give a move, but I'll also like give like just like the concept of like, you know, trying to pursue parkour as a career. I think that's the scariest thing really, is like, yeah, it's like you're kind of we're kind of at a stage where it's still like nobody really knows exactly the direction of where parkour is going, and so it's fucking frightening. You don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what's going to happen in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the scariest thing, really. But I'll give you a move. There's the first thing that comes to mind is the dive roll I did in Seattle at Gasworks Park.
The chest scraper.
The chest scraper, because I had tried it in the past, and I had gotten quite scraped up, and it was just so mentally
sketchy.
Yeah, so sketchy. There's so many factors in it that was sketchy, and then and then when we went back there like a couple years later, it was like I ended up getting it like first or second try, like no injuries, so I was really happy with that. But yeah, it was scary. Like I had to like meditate for 10 minutes to convince myself to do it again.
I actually think it's tough to zero in on a scariest move or moment or thing.
It really is.
Because oftentimes the things that are most scary, after you do them, it's almost washed away, or you just feel ridiculous, or they're often not the most.
It's like, oh, I was capable of doing this the whole time.
Yeah, they're often not the most physically effortful. Like, oh, this is my max jump, and it's really scary because it's my max jump, plus it's to a rail over height, blah, blah, blah. It's usually something that's, I usually find easier, but there's something sketchy about it, whether it's high or the landing is weird and I might hit my head on something.
Usually the scariest things that happen in parkour are the things that you bail on and you freak yourself out and then you don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
That's usually like the scariest thing in parkour. And the challenge there is actually getting yourself to do it again, like try to do it immediately as long as you're not injured. Because then you sort of can immediately conquer that fear and be like, okay, no, that's cool. Like I am capable of doing this. It's just, I had a lapse in judgment or lapse in skill or focus or whatever.
Okay, next one. How to pronounce Tom's last name.
Okay, so
wow, there's like a story here. Okay.
Basically, I'll accept anything. I'll accept anything except Coppola. So I can't think of any other like ways that would be wrong.
Some people like to put an A instead of an O.
Capola?
Or Capola.
Capola?
Yeah.
Well, so my family.
It is C-O.
My family pronounces it Coppola. But the Italian pronunciation would be Coppola. Or Coppola.
I think that's how I say it.
So I say it either way. I'll like transfer in between the two, either Coppola or Coppola. It doesn't matter. I don't really care either way, as long as it's not Coppola. That's the one thing I don't like. I know it looks like it says cop in the first three letters, but it's just not how it's pronounced. So that's cool.
All right, moving on. Amberg Mueller. Probably saying that wrong. Lost it. Hang on. Before being able to open a parkour gym like Origins, how much time and effort does it approximately take to get the necessary know-how, finding a team of coaches, gathering the money, figuring out all there is in advance? I don't know if there's a single answer for that.
Depends on your location and community. That's a big.
Yeah, you're gonna get lucky with some of those things, and you're gonna get unlucky with some of those things. I think it really. So, I think my key to recommended key to success for opening up a parkour gym is being able to do everything yourself. So get as many people as you can to help, but in the back of your head, you got to be, or somewhere you got to be able to willing to accept that I need to be able to do all of this myself, or at least parts of it, in order for this to work. Because, depending on where you're from, like you might not have a city that's going to be really into parkour or really accepting, and you need to be able to save money. You need to be able to save money at every chance you get. So if you don't have to get other people to help you, it means you don't have to pay as many people and break promises and that sort of thing. So if you can do it all on your own, then I think you'll be more successful. But yeah, otherwise, get as many people as you can to help. Just know that you need to pay them in some way or promise them something.
Hold on, let's like rewind a second. What's your budget?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's like the number one question. Is like if you're working with a limited budget, then like like all those things. If you have like a larger budget, then
if you have tons of money, it doesn't matter.
Like, it doesn't matter because then you can pay everyone to build your gym and then recruit people from other places to come work. Because people go where the jobs are.
Yeah, you're still. I mean, not that even if you have tons of money, doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna just like spend it all, though, right? So
right, yeah.
So I think
you still want to be smart about how you spend your money.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, when the gym first opened, I was doing a lot of the coaching on my own simply because I couldn't pay others to coach, and if it was a bigger class, I would strictly state like, hey, can you volunteer? Do you want to help out? I can start to pay you soon, just not right away. But there needs to be communication there of that sort of thing. It can't just be like, hey, help, and then that person's not getting anything out of it. So it's on you. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one, Raven MCC1. Will you be changing the competition format for NAPC? If so, what should we expect? I'll take that one.
No.
I mean, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some changes to, just slight changes to the format, but for the most part, it's still going to be the standard skill, speed, style. We're running a few open competitions on leading our way up to the event, so we're going to be testing some new ideas for skills to be measuring and ideas for courses as well. So so less changes to the format and more changes to like design. Right.
Yep.
Yep.
It's gonna be better.
It's gonna be better.
It's gonna be same but better.
Yeah. I mean, we always try to outdo our previous year.
We do.
We do.
Cool. Okay, next one, Rutger van der Zee. Probably saying that wrong too. What strategies, concepts do you use personally and or at the gym to maximize the chance to be able to practice parkour over a lifetime in terms of prehab, periodization, and volume? Let's take this one at a time. So prehab, I think we both had injuries. We both have been injured and continue to practice. But I do notice that basically as we get older, especially anytime there's pain or something, we're always trying to find some way to solve and get around that, even if it's not a problem yet. So, we could have a shoulder issue or a knee issue where it's like, hey, it's not actually stopping me from training, but I probably should try to figure this out before continuing to hit things hard. So you'll take some time off and try to figure that out and hopefully figure it out. But I think those are still problems sometimes.
Yeah, I think the number one thing for me is auto-regulation, just like feeling how my body is feeling and changing my training day to day, week to week based on how I'm feeling, how my body's functioning. I mean, I don't train with particularly high volume, and right now as well, like just right now it's pretty low volume. I'm training like maybe like 2 times a week, 3 tops. But in the summertime, I'll maybe bump that up But it totally depends. It's always fluctuating based on how my body is feeling, how I'm responding to the different stimulus. Yeah. And I think it's really important to just be able to listen to your body. Last night I was planning on training, and then I was just like, I was doing just a few flips with Kieran last night, and I was like, I do not feel powerful at all. I feel like really, really weak today. So I decided not to train. So yeah, that's just an example. And you should be able to feel that out. And maybe I could have stuck around and done some lighter things and just to keep skill in check. But I chose not to, and that was just part of the decision. But I have to make up for it at some point later this week and train. So yeah, auto-regulation is key.
Yeah, that's a learned skill though too. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to be doing parkour, or at least activity, for a while to be able to kind of know thyself in such a way. There's like more technology coming out to help with auto-regulation. People have grip testers and just different things of measuring like their CNS like preparedness and everything. So that's kind of cool stuff. I think we're entering like a pretty interesting age as far as how that affects programming and being able to continue to train smart as an athlete. I've always tended to like more volume in parkour and try to push it when I can. I feel like the longer I stay away from things, particularly if they're things that scare me, the worse I get. So like even right now, just being out of parkour because of injury for what's it now, almost 4 months. I'm trying to visualize certain things, and it's good sometimes because I'll think about doing a certain move, just being able to jump and flip again, and thinking about it in my head and being okay with it, not feeling like it's going to be scary. But I do get concerned with the fact that the more time out, the more like the fear is likely to come back, because I was afraid to do things for a longer period of time than I was not afraid. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So if you think I'm almost 30 years old and I'm like at the end of the week, and
you're 30.
Yeah, I'm basically 30. But I've been doing parkour for over a decade, but still that's like almost 20 years of not doing these things. Not doing anything close to them, and then the first like half decade of doing parkour being afraid of a bunch of things. So yeah, definitely spent more time being afraid of certain things than not being afraid. And yeah, I feel like when I don't introduce myself to that stuff enough, I get scared again. So
right.
So yeah, that's tends to be why I like volume, and it's just kind of finding ways, I guess, to be able to. I've always liked I've been introduced to it newly, was like the software hardware analogy, where it's like you got to be able to upgrade your software without damaging the hardware. So be able to work on moves and work on not being afraid of things and being in the moment without damaging your body by actually doing hard stuff all the time.
Yeah, I think it's definitely individualized too. Like your example of wanting to do more volume to sort of stay mentally focused. I think there's going to be some people out there that don't need that. Like, I don't know, it just comes to mind, like there's some people who leave the game for years, come back and still are at the top level. Because the mental stuff never messed with them. I mean, maybe they have a little bit of rust, but for the most part, they're still capable of performing. I'm kind of I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle, where I have to still regularly train, but I can have lower volume of training and I'll still feel okay to come back into it. But if I take like several months off from any parkour, like I'm gonna be scared of things again. But yeah, I think you have to know yourself, and that again is just experience. Knowing yourself and knowing what you respond to best. And yeah, I mean the question included things like prehab. Yeah, prehab is important, like making sure you can get into certain positions, making sure that you're healthy in those positions, and just understanding what those positions are.
periodization too. Just realizing that there's multiple components to any sport. It's like, again, parkour is not special, right? People really need to understand that parkour is not like, sure, there's a diverse nature to it of moves and things you can do, but there are moves that you do in other sports. There's a lot to take away. So it's not special in terms of what it does to your body. So there's different components that go into getting better and staying healthy. So you could spend times where you're working on strength a lot, but then obviously you gotta be doing less jumpy jump. And there's times where you're doing more jumps, and obviously you can't be squatting your max and stuff on during those times.
Yeah.
So yeah. So cool.
Well, it's interesting too, though, because there's still not like a competition calendar.
Yep. So it makes it hard to
periodize because like when are you trying to peak? When are you trying to get like your maximum performance? It's like, well, I'm always trying to peak. I'm always trying to be on the top. Like,
yeah.
So that's where it gets like tricky. Is like, there's like you don't really have a schedule where you want to be performing really well. So it makes it really hard to design your training around that. I think we'll get there in a few years, but again, like you don't have to be that kind of athlete, right? You could be the guy that just auto-regulates. And how are you feeling today? Oh, I'm gonna throw down. How am I feeling today? Oh no, I feel like crap. I'm just gonna hang out and talk to my buddies at a gym, right? Like there's a time and place for it, and there's type of athlete that requires it, and there's type of athlete that's not as much interested in it. So
yeah,
it's cool.
Okay, I think it's the last one. Frugal Potential asks, further to some topics in New Year episode, given that all sports have a culture and that all culture is created by its members, and given that parkour is still in its infancy, my question is, can the parkour community create a culture that does not age out its athletes? Example, deliberately forming an expectation that athletes continue to be valued as they age versus seeing him/her as past prime.
I think that's an important question. Do you want to say?
I just like, I think competitively, yeah, you're gonna be past prime, but you don't need to do any activity to compete. There's tons of activities that are also sports, tons of disciplines that are also sports, and if you're approaching it like a sport, yeah, you're gonna have prime time to compete. But then there's also things like 50 plus divisions and stuff like that where you can still do it. The body also, like, you're physically and mentally you degenerate. Talk to someone in their 90s, and you can't do what you used to. It's just.
Well, I mean, so we've had open competitions here at Origins where we've had people in their 40s competing. You don't have to be at the elite level to still be trying to improve yourself.
Yeah, or enjoy it. Yeah, improve yourself.
Or enjoying just coming to open gym, or going outside and training, or going to classes, or whatever you're doing to be involved in the sport. I was on Facebook, that stupid website, and I saw Sebastian Foucan. He's like training in this gym, and Sebastian, he must be in his 40s now.
Probably late 40s.
Late 40s.
Ooh. Crickets? Nice.
Yeah, crickets.
Cool.
Got it.
Got a little bit. This is the last one. So.
Yeah, he's training in a gym, and he still looks good. He still looks just as good as when he was in Jump London. But the interesting thing about that generation, so that's like the first generation, right? So Sebastian Foucan, the Yamakaze, and David Beau, is, to me, it's interesting that sort of there's almost like more knowledge in the younger generations, right? So like, let's say like we're in like maybe generation 2 or 3. I would say like maybe you're 2, 3. And we I feel like there's more knowledge in like technique advice or ideas, right? So like, they would do like weird kind of cat leaps, like with their elbows and stuff like that. And the younger generations like kind of knows not to do that. And there's better ways of accomplishing things. But as they get older, they're almost like they're not adopting like some of the newer methods, and they're kind of staying in their own sort of
ways,
yeah, in their own ways. But as long as they're still practicing, that's great, and it seems like they all are for the most part. The Yamakaze, I don't know what David's doing, but Stefan's like training.
Beau,
yeah,
Laurent,
yeah. And I think that's great that they're still training and they're still moving. And Sebastian still seems like he's very much a part of the community, because I think he's like that he helped open that gym or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. But now, like I was thinking about this last night, because like we're part of a particular generation, and we have these ideas about how moves are done, and like we have certain sort of methods for training and stuff. And then the kids are like, they have some knowledge that we just don't have. Like they're surpassing our knowledge. I mean, like they still don't have the things that like the fundamentals that I think we're trying to sort of get across yet, at least. But there's something else that they're able to do that we just have no understanding of. We're maybe trying to like look to them for advice almost, right? At least to watch them and to see the way they develop. So I think the cool thing about parkour is that we're always learning from the younger generations. There's always a knowledge transfer. It's both. It's both ways.
They're creating new moves.
They're creating new moves, and and they're learning. They're certainly learning from us, and we learned from the older generations. But it's a very interesting knowledge transfer. That's where we're it's all rooted in this older method, and we're also bringing something to the table, even though the older generation brings a lot to the table, right? So there's always the younger generation that's actually bringing knowledge to the table. I thought that was a really interesting thought that I had last night. But specific to the question, I guess, is I don't think just because you're aging, you're basically being priced out of the market. You're being like knocked out of the culture. I think as long as you're doing parkour, there's always going to be a community around you to support you. It doesn't matter how old you are. Like some of the open gyms here are great. You've got like little kids training in the same area as an adult who's just trying to stay fit and be a part of and learn new moves and just be a part of a community. And I think that's great. I don't think we'll lose that. I think there will be more competitive avenues for parkour athletes to pursue, but that doesn't mean you can't be a recreational parkour guy, or a girl. You go to a skate park, there's older guys, skating around at a skate park, and then there's like the young prodigies, it's always going to be there,
Yeah, I think more to the question though, like so if you start, there's a Beau Kendall.
Yeah.
He started parkour in his 40s. I think he's still in his 40s, but he's in his late 40s now, and yeah, he's doing really like he's kind of somewhat of an anomaly, I would say, just because of like the level he's actually able to achieve. Like he's he's actually I believe some quite advanced. I haven't seen his whole game, but like he's quite advanced in certain things. For someone that started
so late in their
career,
career,
like what people will call past their physical prime, but because he just started, it's like he has all these techniques to catch up on. You know, it's like, and like you can, I think that's kind of like for me. I always feel like, oh, I can always improve technically. Eventually, like particularly if you started jumping or sprinting in your 20s, like you will peak in power in your 20s, like more than more than likely, unless you're training really wrong or something. You will naturally peak earlier in life. You start to slow down, start to be less reactive. So, however, you could still break records in your 30s because of technical development, just because you get better technique. The same thing, like if you're starting parkour in your 40s or 50s, you will get better, particularly if you've never done anything like it. Right.
Yeah. I think Beau Kendall is incredible. Like what he's been able to accomplish. That first video where he was training with Livewire, he looks. I don't know like how much of like the video or how much of
jumps that Tim couldn't.
Yeah, he was basically competing with Livewire and winning. That was really interesting to me. And you know he's got some weird flips and stuff, but he goes for it and he's landing on his feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible what that guy can do. But yeah, not everybody's gonna be able to do that. Especially if they're starting in their 40s or
Yeah, it's great inspiration, but
yeah, not everybody's gonna be able to do it, but like at least I think he's a great person to look to as like somebody who like doesn't care about how old he is. That he's not letting that stop him from doing what he really wants to do. Right?
Yeah. I think in the first video that Tim put out too, he was admitting to, I'm going to eventually have to slow down a bit. These things aren't going to be as possible, but he's going to do it. For as long as he can. So.
Yeah, he just came out with a new video too, I think. It's like a recap of all 2015.
So I don't know if we quite answered that question, but it brings up some interesting ideas, I guess. But yeah. Cool. That's it for today. We'll be back next week with some news, hopefully.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Goodbye. Oh. I gotta get my old ass to physio.